The door slammed with a finality that shook 14-year-old Felix to his core. "You don't exist to us anymore." His father snarled the words, sealing his fate after they discovered his secret love for another boy in their small Texas town. Felix stood on the cracked porch, his backpack heavy with nothing but a few clothes and the weight of rejection, his mother's tear-streaked face vanishing behind the curtain as the lock clicked shut. He walked away into the humid night air, the cicadas mocking his every step, unsure where a kid like him could go when the only home he knew had just erased him from existence. The next days blurred into a nightmare of bus stations and shelters. Felix hitchhiked to Dallas, then kept moving north until New York swallowed him whole. At 15, he lied about his age to get a dishwashing job in a greasy diner, the owner too tired to ask questions. Nights he crashed on friends' couches until even those ran out. Social services placed him in a group home where the other boys whispered slurs behind his back, but one counselor, an older gay man named Marcus, pulled him aside one evening. "Kid, you're not broken, you're just starting," Marcus said, handing him a worn library card. That small gesture became Felix's lifeline. He devoured books on history and psychology, hiding in the stacks after school, dreaming of a future where he didn't have to apologize for who he loved. Years passed in quiet determination. Felix finished high school, through night classes, worked 2 jobs, and earned a scholarship to a community college in the city. He studied architecture, sketching buildings that felt open and honest, unlike the closed doors of his childhood. Friends came and went, but Ethan stuck around, the straight ally from his diner days who never flinched when Felix finally came out properly over cheap coffee. "You're my brother no matter what," Ethan promised, and for the first time Felix believed family could be chosen. By 22, Felix had transferred to a university in San Francisco, the city's fog and freedom suiting his restless heart. He landed an internship at a tech firm designing sleek offices for startups. Life felt possible until the night he met Oliver at a quiet gallery opening. Oliver, 31, with kind eyes and paint-stained hands, was exhibiting abstract pieces that somehow captured the exact ache Felix carried. They talked until closing, the conversation flowing like they had known each other forever. Oliver listened when Felix shared fragments of Texas without pity, just understanding. "I left home too," Oliver said softly, "but I found my way back to myself first." Their connection grew slowly, walks along the Embarcadero, shared meals in tiny cafes. Felix felt seen for the first time without fear. Yet shadows lingered. Back in Texas, his family had never reached out, not a single call. He told himself he didn't care, but late nights the emptiness gnawed. Ethan warned him once, "Don't let the past own you, man, but don't pretend it never happened either." Felix nodded, pushing the pain down, focusing on Oliver's laugh and the way their hands fit perfectly. Little did he know the past was about to knock louder than any slammed door. Felix's phone buzzed on a rainy Thursday, 3 years into his life with Oliver. The number showed an unfamiliar Texas area code. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. His older brother Jake's voice cracked through the line. "Felix, it's Dad. He's sick, real sick. Doctors say months maybe. Mom, she kept some of your old things. We need to talk." The words landed like stones. Felix stared at the rain streaking the window of their apartment, Oliver's arm around his shoulders, steadying him. "Why now?" Felix whispered after hanging up. Oliver kissed his temple. "Because some truths don't stay buried forever." The flight home felt surreal. Felix gripped Oliver's hand the whole way, the California sun fading behind them. At the airport, Jake waited, looking older, worn. No hug, just a nod. "Thanks for coming," he muttered, driving them to the family house Felix hadn't seen in over a decade. The porch light still flickered the same way. Inside, his mother Sarah stood in the kitchen, eyes wide with a mix of shock and something softer, regret maybe. "You look grown," she said, voice trembling. His father Robert lay in the living room recliner, oxygen tubes snaking across his chest. The man who had declared him non-existent now stared with hollow eyes. "Felix," he rasped. No apology, yet just the name. That first night tension crackled. Jake pulled Felix aside in the hallway. "Look, we didn't know how to find you after you left. Mom cried for months, but Dad, he was set in his ways. Church friends, all that." Felix's jaw tightened. "You stood there and watched them throw me out, Jake. Don't rewrite history." The old betrayal burned fresh. Oliver stayed quiet, offering support with glances and gentle touches when no one else was looking. Sarah served dinner meatloaf like old times, her hands shaking as she set a plate for Oliver without comment. Small mercies. Days blurred into hospital runs and quiet talks. Robert's illness was cancer aggressive. He asked Felix to sit with him one afternoon, the room heavy with unspoken years. "I was wrong, son," Robert admitted, voice weak. "Thought I could pray it away. Lost you instead." Felix felt the crack in his armor, but didn't break. "Not yet." Oliver encouraged him later on their motel balcony. "You don't owe them forgiveness, but you owe yourself peace." Felix nodded, pulling Oliver close, the night air carrying the scent of Texas dirt and second chances. Yet cracks appeared elsewhere. Ethan called from New York, worried. "Heard you went back, man. Just remember who you are now. Don't let them drag you down." Felix assured him everything was fine, but inside doubts swirled. Jake's wife had mentioned church gossip, the same circles that once shunned Felix now whispering about his lifestyle. Societal pressure never really left small towns. Oliver sensed the strain, kissed him softly. "We faced this together." Their love felt like the only solid ground. The turning point came without warning. Sarah pulled Felix into the attic one evening, dust motes dancing in the flashlight beam. She opened a dusty box filled with his childhood drawings, report cards, and a stack of letters he had written to Oliver years ago, never sent. "I kept them," she whispered. "Read every one when your father wasn't looking. I was scared, Felix, scared of losing everything, the church, the neighbors, you. But I never stopped loving you." Tears streamed down her face. Felix's world tilted. All those silent years, she had carried his truth in secret. Robert's condition worsened, doctors suggesting hospice. Jake cornered Felix in the garage, anger flashing. "You think you can just waltz back rich, successful with your boyfriend and play hero? I stayed here, took care of them while you ran off." The betrayal cut deep. Jake had known where Felix was years ago through a mutual friend, but never told their parents out of spite. "You chose comfort over blood." Felix shot back, voice steady for the first time. Oliver waited outside the door later, holding him as the weight settled. "You don't have to fix their mistakes," he said. Word spread through town. Old neighbors stopped by, some offering awkward prayers, others glaring. Felix faced them with Oliver at his side, the two men walking Main Street hand in hand for the first time. It felt like defiance and freedom rolled into one. Ethan texted support memes and encouragement, keeping the friendship alive across miles. Yet one misunderstanding nearly shattered everything. Jake leaked an old photo to a local gossip site claiming Felix had abandoned the family for a gay lifestyle. Oliver saw it first, hurt flashing across his face. "Is that how they still see us?" For a tense night, Felix feared Oliver might pull away, the pressure too much. But Oliver stayed, choosing trust. "We've built something real. Don't let their noise drown it." Felix made a decision then. He sat with Robert and laid everything bare, the years of loneliness, the love he found, the man he became. Robert listened, eyes wet. "I want to meet him properly, your Oliver. Before it's too late." The next morning, Oliver joined them, coffee in hand, conversation stilted but honest. Robert asked about Oliver's art, about their life in California. Small bridges formed. Sarah watched with quiet hope. Felix felt the shift inside him, not full forgiveness yet, but the beginning of release. Hospice arrived, the house filling with medical equipment and soft voices. Felix took charge, redesigning the living room for comfort, sketching layouts that allowed light and dignity. His architectural skills finally serving the family that once rejected him. Oliver helped paint walls a calm blue, working side by side with Jake, who slowly softened. "I was jealous," Jake admitted one afternoon, hammer in hand. "You got out. I stayed trapped." The confession eased old rifts. Ethan flew in for support, the loyal friend grounding Felix with jokes and late-night talks. "Proud of you, man," he said, clapping Felix on the back. Robert's final weeks brought revelations. In a lucid moment, he handed Felix an envelope saved for years. Inside, a letter from the boy Felix had loved at 14, now grown and happy himself. "Your dad asked me to write this years ago," the letter read. "He wanted you to know love isn't a sin, it's human." Robert had reached out in secret, battling his own beliefs. Felix cried, then the first real tears since the slammed door. Oliver held him through it, their bond deepening in the shared vulnerability. Societal whispers continued, but Felix faced them head-on at a town hall meeting about community support for families. He spoke openly about identity and acceptance, Oliver beside him. Some nodded, others walked out, Yet the act felt empowering. Sarah joined a local support group for parents, her quiet courage, inspiring Felix more than words could. Jake even defended them once at the diner when old friends sneered. Growth rippled through the family like healing wounds. Yet one last secret surfaced. Robert confessed he had paid for Felix's first year of college anonymously through Marcus the counselor. Couldn't say it then, he whispered. But I watched from afar. The truth hit Felix like sunlight after endless rain. All those years of believing he was truly alone cracked open. He held his father's hand, the decision to stay until the end, feeling right. Oliver whispered later, "You're rewriting your story every day." Robert passed on a crisp autumn morning. The family gathered around his bed. Felix spoke at the funeral, simple words about forgiveness and the long road home. The church was packed, some faces from his past, now offering genuine condolences. Jake stood taller beside him, Sarah leaning on both sons. Oliver remained a steady presence, respectful and present. After the service, Ethan pulled Felix aside. "You did it, man. You faced the storm and came out stronger." Their friendship felt unbreakable, the years of distance melting away. Back in California weeks later, Felix and Oliver sat on their beach, the same one from happier memories. Felix proposed quietly, simple ring in hand. "You were my anchor through every wave," he said. Oliver said yes, tears mixing with sea spray. They built a life, planning a small wedding, inviting Sarah and Jake, who accepted with open hearts. The family visits began, tentative, then warm. Texas holidays in San Francisco, blending old and new. Societal pressures lingered. Felix faced subtle bias at work once, but spoke up, supported by Oliver and colleagues who rallied. He started a mentorship program for LGBTQ youth, drawing from his own pain, turning it into purpose. Ethan joined as a volunteer, the circle of chosen family expanding. Sarah called weekly, sharing her support group stories, pride evident in her voice. Jake even brought his kids for visits, the next generation, learning acceptance early. Yet the journey wasn't without scars. Felix still woke some nights from old dreams, the slammed door echoing. Oliver held him through them, reminding him of the man he chose to become. Their love deepened through conversations about future kids, maybe adoption, the dreams once impossible now real. Felix visited the group home where he once stayed, sharing his story with wide-eyed teens. "You exist," he told them. "And you matter." The words he wished someone had said to his 14-year-old self. Months later, Felix stood on the porch of the old Texas house, now remodeled, with his designs, light pouring through new windows. Sarah hugged him tight, Jake clapping his back. "We were wrong for so long," Jake said, voice thick. "But you showed us how to be better." Felix nodded, the weight finally lifting. Oliver waited in the car, smiling, the future stretching bright ahead. They drove away together, the road open, endless. Felix's story wasn't about erasing the past, but weaving it into something stronger. He and Oliver married under California skies, Ethan as best man, Sarah dabbing tears. The reception mixed Texas barbecue with city flair, laughter filling the air. Old friends, new allies, all celebrating the love that refused to break. Felix looked at Oliver across the dance floor, heart full, realizing acceptance wasn't given, it was claimed through every hard choice, every brave step. Years on, Felix mentored more young men, sharing the lessons of resilience and chosen family. Oliver's art exhibitions featured pieces inspired by their journey, colors vibrant like the life they built. Sarah visited often, Jake's kids calling Felix uncle without hesitation. The societal pressures that once crushed him now fueled his advocacy work. He spoke at conferences, his voice steady, carrying the weight of every boy who felt non-existent. Through it all, Oliver remained his constant, the love that proved home could be found, not just inherited. Felix sat on their balcony one evening, watching the sunset, Oliver's hand in his. The journey from that slammed door to this peace had been long, winding, filled with misunderstandings, betrayals, and quiet sacrifices. But every decision, every consequence had shaped the man who finally belonged to himself. He turned to Oliver, smiling. "We made it." Oliver kissed him softly. "We did more than that. We rewrote everything. True or false, blood ties can only be truly mended after total erasure and deliberate rebuilding."